In this video, we'll talk about lifecycle hooks in unmounting phase. And unmounting phase is also called as the removing phase. Okay, so under this phase, we have only one method, that is disconnected callback method. This method is very important to avoid the memory leaks issues. I'll show you in an example. So these are the points to remember. This component fires when the component is removed from the DOM. It flows from parent to child, and this callback method is specific to a Lightning Web component. It isn't from the HTML custom element specification. So the thing you need to remember is this component fires when the component is removed from the DOM. So let's go to our VS Code and implement this. So as I said, this component or this method gets called only when you remove something from the DOM. To actually achieve that scenario, what we're gonna do is we already have a child component and a parent component, and in the parent component we already have a child component, right? So I'll create a button and try to achieve the scenario like on click of that button I'll show this component, and on click of button I'll remove this component. Okay, so first I'll remove this input field. I don't need this to demonstrate. I'll remove this as well, and in the child component we're gonna create our disconnected callback method. So let's first create the button only. So I'll create a button above my child component. I'll just copy paste the code. It's a pretty simple lightning button tag, variant brand. It gives the blue color. The label of the button is show child, title is show child, title is for accessibility. On click I'm gonna call handle click. So I'll create this handle click method here. I'll keep it empty right now. And then I have given a class of left margin small. Okay, just to give the margin little bit to the left side. So this button is there. I want this child to be visible only when you click on this button, show child. So what I can do here is I can wrap this component using if true directive, and I can put my child component under that directive if true. So if the expression here evaluates to true, this component will true, or this component will load, right? So let's create this property first. So we'll create a property is child visible, and I can say right now it's false. So by default child will not be visible, and on click of handle child I want to show that to true. Okay, and I want another button on click of which I want to remove this again, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'll create another button just below this, and I'll say remove child, and I'll say remove child. I'll keep the handle click same. Okay, and what we're gonna do in the handle click, instead of setting it to true, we'll say just toggle it. So not of this dot child visible. So first click make false to true, second click make true to false. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this property to hide the buttons as well, so that at a time only one button be visible. So I'll say if true is visible is true, and show the button remove one, right? We want whenever the child is visible, then the remove button should be visible. And similarly to the another button, I'll wrap it, and I'll say if is child visible property is false, show me the show child button. Okay, so now we have two buttons. Both button has the same handle click. By default, first time will show the button show child, and on click of that will show the child component, and on click of another remove button will hide the child component. And the key point here why we are doing this, we want to make sure whether our child disconnected callback has been called or not. And in the slide we already seen this method gets called up when you are removing the component from the DOM. And to demonstrate that, we have only one option: to remove the child component and put the disconnected callback in the child component. So we will remove this child component from the parent component, and this method should get called up. Okay, and to visualize this, suppose if I put the console, I will not able to see this because the time we click remove child, it will remove the component, right? I'll put the alert this time. So whenever it's about to remove, show me this alert message. Okay, this will gives us a better visualization whether this method has been called or not. So I have given a text alert child disconnected callback called. Okay, and a real-time example, if many people might think where you're gonna use this and how it's gonna help you from the memory leak, I'll show you after this. Okay, so let's deploy this and see how it behaves, and I'll show you the power of this method in a minute. Okay, so right now we just checking on adding or removing the DOM whether this disconnected callback is getting called up or not. Let's go to our org, refresh the page. So by default this show child button is coming, but the child component is not rendering. So right now I clear the console, nothing is there. So if I click show child, now you see it immediately call the child component constructor, child connected callback, child render method, and then parent rendered callback. Okay, so the order is same that we discussed in the mounting phase, because right now we are in the creation phase of the child, because on click of show child we are in the creation phase. Now we're gonna enter into the removal phase or the unmounting phase. So if I click the remove child, it will remove this component, and while removing the component it should call the disconnected callback method. So as I click it here, see here the alert box is coming, child disconnected called. So it called that method, and once it gets removed, again our parent render method gets called up, because we are updating the properties here. And whenever something gets changed, so here we are updating the property, right? So whenever something change in the property, the render method get called again. Okay, so this is how your disconnected callback works. So let me show you another example actually where you're gonna use it. So many times you would have seen we use window.add event listener, and to add event listener we'll say our event name is click, and whenever somebody click on the whole window, you call this method handle click, right? So you attach it to the window property, and window property exists till the time your browsers run, right? It doesn't matter whether you remove the component or not, right? So that caused the memory leak issue, and to solve that we'll remove the event listener in the disconnected callback. So what we do is we'll say window dot remove event listener and this listener. This is the method that gets called on click, and whenever you are remove the component, will remove the listener from the window as well. Okay, so this connected callback is very useful to from the performance point of view as well, and to avoid the memory leak. This is one example. The another example you can think of, like whenever you set up some set time, set timeout, right, or set interval again and again, and while going out, because set timeout and set interval are the property of window, and we already discussed about these two methods in our JavaScript videos, right? So if you say window dot set interval and you're calling some method again and again, right, and this is attached, this interval is attached to window, and when you are removing the component, this interval still run behind the scene until unless you explicitly remove it. And to remove that you need to store it into a variable interval something, any variable, and in your disconnected callback you need to call it as window dot clear interval and pass your interval reference. Okay, so this should be exactly a outside. You can create a variable and you can do like this. Many people will say, okay, what he's saying. So I create a property in which I store the reference of the set timeout interval, and I'm going to clear it when I'm disconnecting my component from the child. Okay, or disconnecting my component basically. So here these are the some approach you need to follow. We'll see when we build a real-time project, you'll see everything what you are learning right now with real-time examples. Okay, so this is the disconnected callback, and this is the unmounting phase of our lightning web component. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.